Welcome to the Tabletop Gaming Guild show. We are all about the experiences and memories that playing board games with friends and family can create. On tonight's episode, we're going to discuss competition in games. Before we get to that, we'll see what we've been playing lately.
All right, I'm going to jump in here because as we've discussed previously, I don't get to play games a whole freaking lot because I'm just reading role-playing game books all the time. Thanks, James. I love it. It's wonderful. But I do get together with a buddy of mine on Tabletop Simulator or just online every once in a while, and we play-ish games. And by play-ish games, I mean sometimes we just hang out and we talk, but we throw a game in there too while we talk. And this week's game was called Simplexity, which is a 15-year-old, James is going to love this, apples to apples-ish, I know, game. But so the idea is it's a huge deck of cards, and you're going to flip over two of them, and one of them is either going to have like a setting for a film. So maybe it just says New York. And then the other card will say set in the 1800s or the movie's set in the 1800s or earlier. And the first person who can think of a film that took place in New York with the setting, with that same time setting, calls it out. If you're playing it with a group of friends, then you're supposed to have one person who's being the judge that round, who is going to like declare, if multiple people get it at the same time, which one was first or which one's right. The way we played it, because it was just the two of us, we've done a game called Concepts together, where so we're just like pointing out these little symbols. So we did it kind of like that, where we would, one person, it was their turn, we'd flip over the two cards, that person would come up with a film, and then it was the other person's job to try to guess what film the other person was thinking of. We did awful. We know each other pretty well. We both like movies quite a bit. But I don't think we guessed the other person's film once. We came up with other films that fit the criteria, but not even once did we actually get the same one. But it was fun. It was a good time. We hung out. And again, that's the whole point that we say we love what playing games with friends and families can create. And I love hanging out with my friends, even if the game is not like a legit game, because we took a game and we turned it into a hangout session. But you don't have to play a game to play a game. It doesn't have to be competitive, except that's what we're talking about tonight. So, but that was me. That's what I played the most recently with Simplexity. So
I'd say it sounds interesting, but
it doesn't. I threw in apples to apples, and James was like, no, done. And Nathan's like, movies. I like movies. I could talk about movies for a while.
Pretty much, I saw that.
So I'm going to throw it to Nathan next. Nathan, what have you been playing lately?
Sure. I got a few games to talk about that I'm probably going to mostly let other people talk about.
Okay.
The first one is a game with an overabundance of exclamation points. And that's Clank in Space, which I'm sure Dan's going to want to talk about quite a bit, but this is basically Clank that they've taken into a sci-fi theme. You're going through a spaceship trying to basically you have to get a code to be able to get to the last sector and then get an artifact and try to get out of the spaceship before you're caught by the security. You get points if you make it to an escape shuttle. You get some points if you get close enough to the escape shuttle that you can be rescued. You get no points if you just straight up die. Dan, is there a lot you want to add?
I mean, not really. This is one of my favorite deck builders. It's been in my collection for a while. If you have, I mean, you were the one who played it more recently than I. Is this relatively new to you?
This is the first time I've actually played the physical game. I played it on Tabletop Simulator with Dan before, and I did really enjoy this. This is my favorite version of Clank. I've played, base Clank, and Clank Acquisition was really good, but this, I think, is the most streamlined and interesting version of Clank, whereas Acquisition is like more interesting than base Clank, but it's because it's like a campaign, it does get a little bit convoluted. It's okay, oh, do I want to throw this module in or this module in? This is just Clank in Space is just, this is the game. You can switch it up a little bit, but it's pretty solid for what it's giving you. The next one I want to talk about is one that Evan's probably going to want to chime in on. And that's a game, a very relatively simple but very heavy Euro called Dominant Species. Now, Dominant Species, you're playing as a kingdom of animals, I believe that's the right term. You can be insects or you can be birds or so forth. And you are basically trying to get area control as well as dominance. Dominance is like basically you can adapt to be able to use different food sources, and whoever can use the most of a food source in each area is dominant in that area. And each turn you're going to be using a worker placement style action bar, and everybody's going to place their workers, and then you're going to go down that action bar to take each action. Is similar in that way to Age of Empires, or I think it's called now called Age of Discovery. But you take those actions, you make the board reflect what you've done, and then at one of the last actions you can take is assert dominance, where you get to score points on pick an area to score points, and whoever has dominance at point gets these really cool dominance cards that can really swing the game, can be really nasty and vicious. And they're a little bit overpowered sometimes, but that's kind of what makes it cool. It is definitely a longer Euro, and it can play up to 6 players, which I've never played it with a 6 player. I would be interested to try it. I've only so far played it at 3. And Evan, I understand, does not like this game.
It's playing Evolution with cubes and cones for 6 to 8 hours.
It's not quite that long with 3
really
players, but I think it could possibly go that long with.
That's a long game.
It is not quick. And you have to evolve things as you go. And it's not really that pretty, but I mean, it's a GMT title, so they're not the most design figure best company. And they don't have any problems with being rule heavy, but the game just drags. And it's not like a 6 to 8 hours of playing Twilight Imperium where, oh, I've been playing for 20 minutes. No, it's been 6 hours. No, it's like, I've been playing for 6 hours. No, I've been playing for 1.
It's a game where, yes, it's a 3-player game. It's probably like 3 to 4 hours, but that's still pretty long. And it's a game that every decision matters. So it is fairly stressful, and it does definitely feel like the 3 to 4 hours, and you are actually tired at the end of this game. So if you don't like a challenging, stressful game, this may be not for you.
Play Twilight Imperium instead.
I was going to say, I really, really like Dominant Species. I did like it, but Twilight Imperium and other games are better for my time.
Oh, yeah.
I think if the game would be significantly better if it took less time to play.
Right. And God forbid you have somebody as AP. AP will kill this game so bad.
You just shame them out of the game. Don't do that. That's a horrible thing to do, by the way. Yeah.
This is James.
Unless it's Peter. Okay. All right, go ahead, Nathan.
The last game I got to talk about is Formula D. Now, this is a pretty old title because it's originated from Formula D and has been re-implemented. The re-implementation already is 14 years old. But it's really cool looking game. It's got this massive board that they actually put 2 boards together to make one huge board. And you got these little tiny cars that you're driving around the circuit with, and it looks really nice. And in front of your player board is actually a little plastic raised like gear box, so you can actually physically shift your gears, and you keep track of your wear and on your car. It's a fun, light, pretty simple game, but there's a little bit involved as far as you have to keep track of. Okay, if you want to go to the advanced game, you have to keep track of, if you do this action, you're going to take wear in this part of your car, this part of your car, and there's a few little small charts that you have to kind of constantly refer to, which can be a little frustrating for what is really kind of a quick, simple game.
So I like Formula D. I like it a lot. I used to play it. It was probably been 2 decades ago, like 20 years ago. And the cool thing about Formula D is I really do like those dice that it has in the game, and those are all custom dice. The 20-side dice doesn't have 20 numbers on, or it doesn't have 1 through 20. You go fast with that one because I think it starts at 10 or something and then has multiples of that number in there up to 20. Amazing with damage. Also, they have an unreasonable amount of tracks that you can buy of boards for Formula D, like 40 to 50 boards that you can get for this game. Pretty much every like NASCAR track and anything you can ever think of, they have a track for it of anywhere in the world. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and there's like so many different versions of the game, essentially, because you got the base game, the basic game, you got basic game plus, you got advanced game, you got advanced game plus, and then you got optional variants. So it's basically modules you can throw in here however you want. But frankly, I got to try all the modules still. But so far, I would still play Downforce any day over this. I'm enjoying it, but as far as racing games, Downforce is still my favorite.
I just played 2 games of. Are you done? Or you got that your game? Okay, so just segueing to Downforce, I just played like 4 games of Downforce this week, 2 games today and 2 games yesterday. Downforce is a pretty fun game where you're going to bet on the cars and whether they're going to place, but you also will sponsor a vehicle before the game starts. So you'll bid to sponsor a vehicle, which will be your vehicle for the race. It's a 1-lap race, and there's 3 yellow lines. And when any vehicle passes the yellow line, you will bet to see who wins, which does not have to be your car. Chances are, if you can get your car across the finish line first, you have a really high chance of winning overall. But the cool thing about the game is there's a lot of ways that you can control how the cars will place. There's choke points on the track, and each of the cards you play, it comes from a single deck. You shuffle them up and you hand them out, and they have so much movement. And it also, when you're on your turn, when you play cards, you're most likely moving other people's cars too, and you have to play them in order from the top to the bottom. Another cool aspect is when you sponsor a card, you also get a special 8 movement card, which is the highest in the game. 6 is highest other than that. So there's a lot of strategy and a lot of thinking on how much you're going to bid on a vehicle, because I did forget to mention what you bid on a vehicle is negative points at the end of the game. So you have to balance bidding on a vehicle, how much you want, because the vehicle comes with a power. And so how much money are you willing to lose at the end of the game with how you think you're going to perform with that? So it's a really cool game. I liked it a lot. It's very simple. It only takes 20-30 minutes to play, period. So we played it like 2 times at lunch, both times. A lot of fun. I also played Dominant Species, and yeah.
Well, the other big thing about Downforce is it's very low luck, because the only luck that comes in is your initial card draw, because at the very beginning of the game, you draw all the cards you're going to have for the entire game. So from that point on, there's no luck. You know what you're going to have. You just have to predict what other people are going to do.
Yeah, like make your car so slow because they play the 6s and stuff while it's blocked. So, those cards go away and your card never makes it past the finish line. So always fun. Another game that I played, which I've wanted to play in a long time. I played it one time in the past, but Viticulture. Viticulture is an amazing Euro worker placement game. I don't know if it was the first, but it was one of the first ones that gave an opportunity to go to a location that already has put the area full without having to play like additional resources or stuff like that. You would have also seen it in one of his other games. What's that? Utopia one? Euphoria. He had that in there too, but I believe Viticulture was before that. You just have a grande worker, and your grande worker can go in a full area, which I like that a lot. It does give you an opportunity to not get completely screwed out of areas because there's not a whole lot to go to. And I also like the fact that you have a limited number of workers that you get to do unless you hire more. And you have to divide them up between a summer and fall season. So if you place your workers down in the summer to do like plant your vines or have people visit for money and stuff like that, you need to have enough workers for what you plan to do for the fall too that you didn't use. So if you want to harvest those grapes, or you want to complete an order, or you want to be able to train more workers so you have more workers the next round, all these really cool things that you can think of. And it's also a race game. You are racing to 20 points. Whoever gets to 20 points first ends the game. Probably the one that won, more than likely. But I do like that aspect where it sort of increases tension as the game goes by, because in the beginning of the game, you really not getting points. You make it 1 or 2 here. You're really trying to build your engine and build things up. So it goes over rounds, but then it really starts moving, and everyone seems to start moving at the same point, at least every time when I played. So I really, really liked Viticulture. I also played Shot and Ton, which is a fine game, and I think a lot of people will enjoy it. I guess I was slightly offended by it, and in an odd way, because I love Battle Line and I love Shot and Totten, which are the same game, and it has a specific sort of abstract strategy where you're trying to claim flags, either 3 in a row, or you're trying to get 5 total to win. And Shot and Totten 2 is not the same game in any way. It's just an asymmetric tower defense style game where that has less cards than the other game. Has like, well, I don't know if it has less, but it has 5 suits instead of 6. It's just different. So I went in thinking like, oh, they're just going to change a couple things and make it cool, or add new tactic cards on it. Now it's not the same now. So it's a fine game. It's rated really well. Lots of people love it. I'm just broken with it, I guess. I don't know what to say about that one. But I think that is the big games that I played. I'm looking forward to playing Flamme Rouge. I got that one from Nathan, so I guess we're doing a racing theme. I didn't get the memo, but I guess we're doing that. So what did you play, Evan?
What did I play? So recently I have gotten a game of Salerno 43 from GMT. Just did the review for it not that long ago. So the designer is Mark Saunovich. He's been working with GMT for a little bit, and he's been doing operational level World War II games for GMT. He made up his system. It takes a lot. It's a chit game that you play with, and it takes a lot of the standard chip game rules that have been out for 40 years, puts a couple fresh spins on them, and then he uses that as a system for these operational level things. And I think he has 3 other titles out right now, and then this one is the most recent one to come out. This is the lightest of them all, and probably the easiest to get into. So it's a fantastic like stepping stone into getting into some of these chit style games for World War II for GMT. Real great title. I really, really enjoyed doing it. He did a fantastic job with that one. What else have I played? Just did a playthrough also of Mantle of the Keeper, which is on Kickstarter now, which I'm not sure when this is going live, if it's still going to be on Kickstarter, but did that one. So it's a skirmish level board game. So you play on a modular board. There's 6 board tiles, and you play out 4 of them. I think there are 5x5 grids, and everyone has their person that they play with, and it's card driven. So you have a base movement on your card, and then you have a range for all your attacks, and then on your turn you can move, and you have 2 actions. In those actions, you can either draw more cards, or you can play a card to attack, or use a special ability on if the card has a special ability. So all the cards have a power and a defense. So when you play your attack, the person that you're attacking has to play a card out of their hand equal to up to the defense to defend against it. That's a real simple version of the game. It played really, really well. Like, I looked at it and I was like, oh, this might take a little bit to learn before I can actually go ahead and do this. I probably had the game up and running, like trying to figure it out within 5 minutes. It was really well written, and it plays super, super smooth.
That's definitely a game I want to try out.
Yeah, I'll definitely play that probably anytime anybody would ever want to play it. I really liked it a lot.
So Dan, what have you been playing?
Well, I'll mention one game I played and one game I haven't played yet, kind of. So just today we sat down to do a couple hands of The Crew. Just me and my brother doing 2-player The Crew. We only played like 5 hands. There was like one mission that we failed like 3 times in a row. It was actually pretty hilarious, but that kind of thing happens when you play The Crew, especially when you get into later missions. The other game that I'm going to sneak up here, let me see if this will work, is this one. Can you make out what that is?
Gaia Project? Yeah. I really want to hear about this one when you play.
Well, so I haven't gotten the physical copy to the table yet, is the sad thing. I just picked this up this week at New Dimension Comics, my friendly local gaming store that I happen to work for. And I played this, oh man, it must be close to a year ago now, on Tabletop Simulator with my brother, and we both thought that it had great legs on it, basically. So I'm looking forward to getting back to this game, and especially the physical copy of this game, because this is a big box and it's got a lot of plastic in it. So yeah.
I really want to know too if you think it's better than the predecessor, or what do you think of the differences between it too? Or do you
So
think the predecessor is better or
my
whatever?
commentary on that will be thin, because Gaia Project was my first version of this game. Like I've never played the fantasy copy, whatever that was called.
That was Terra Mystica.
Yeah, Terra Mystica. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never played Terra Mystica. So
And Terra Mystica got an expansion too that gives it asymmetric race power or class power too. They should have probably added that to Gaia Project.
I'm sorry, Gaia Project, the alien races already are asymmetric.
Oh, do they? So that's probably
Yes.
why they
Same
made
in
the
Terra
expansion.
Mystica, but only slightly.
Oh, the new
And
expansion makes
the,
it really big.
Yeah, the differences between the aliens in Gaia Project is a little bit more than just like window dressing. Some of the aliens are just like, hey, you start with this one level of this technology, which is kind of like, but like one of them, and I forget the name of it, has like a special token that sits on its power cycle, and this special token is worth 3 normal power cubes. And I'm not sure how that works beyond that, but like that's definitely something that no other faction gets. So
Yeah, I've actually never played either of them.
yeah, and I don't know how many factions are in the other game, but in Gaia Project, there's 7 factions and the boards are double-sided and the different sides are different.
Yeah, Terra
Okay, the
Mystica is
different
about the
sides are
same.
different.
I think there's 6 in Terra Mystica. It's been a while since I played it, and they same thing. They're double sided, so you have different factions on either side of the board. But again, it's been a long time since I played that as well, and I haven't played Gaia Project. I would like to play it to see if a comparison, but one thing for certain on Terra Mystica, it's a game that grows on you. I did not like it at all the first time I played it. A few plays in, I really started enjoying it.
Well, yeah, I'm really very hopeful for this one. Otherwise, I wouldn't track down the physical copy.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm perfectly fine with playing a game a couple times to get into it. So that's good. So let's get into our definitions of competitive games. And I want to start off with one of the most competitive games that I played for years, and Dan's still playing to this day. And it's actually multiple people have declared it as the world's most complex game in existence. But it's more like a water drop game. You can learn the basic rules, and then there's more and more and more, and then all the cards make it complex. But I wanted to hear Dan's thoughts on the competitiveness of MTG and its different formats, that how that happens, like your casual versus, of course, tournament play, or even tournament play with prizes, how that ends up happening.
All right, so I guess I'm going to talk I'm going to wear multiple hats here. Here's my tournament organizer hat, and here's my certified judge hat. And so before I go into specifically Magic Gathering, so competition is a spectrum, right? And it goes anywhere from completely passive. And I'm not sure if too many modern board games are 100% passive. Like if you're playing solo, that might be passive, might not be, depending upon how the solo mode is designed. Multiplayer solitaire is a term that you might have heard of in the board game arena that is towards that end of the spectrum, right? And then somewhere in the middle of the spectrum, you have indirect interaction, right? Which I thought immediately of like worker placement games. Like part of the reason why jockeying for first player is so important in worker placement games is that the person who picks the first spot has an advantage. And then any game that involves a race or an element of a race. So there's something in the game that's awarded to the player that does it first, or the player who has the most of something. That's a race element. That's something that the players are going to have to compete over jointly, even if it's just a piece of the game, right? But no, we're going to talk about Magic the Gathering, which is, and this is sort of like on the higher end of the spectrum, because this is getting towards direct interaction. So like this is the sort of game where you can literally attack other players' resources. So like just as an example, in Magic the Gathering, other players might deploy creatures. They deploy creatures to attack your life total, because the goal of the game is to deplete your opponent's life total. You can play a card to destroy their creature, thus negating their advantage. Hand attack is actually quite popular in competitive modern right now, where you're attacking the cards that someone is holding in their hands, because that is a resource. Cards are a resource. And then another form of resource attack that exists in Magic the Gathering, that existed sort of like in the older school of the game, but they've definitely been scaling back on it a lot, is like land destruction. Wizards of the Coast discovered that players don't like land destruction, so they don't print it as much anymore. Go figure.
I see some of my favorite decks. I did like land destruction a lot. There's a lot of good, really good legacy decks out there that have some pretty darn good.
You're a terrible person for playing land destruction.
Pretty good
land destruction is the sort of thing that you don't expose your friends to.
James
good.
doesn't have friends.
Also,
James just has people he plays board games against.
Yeah. Yeah, oh man, there's like legacy is so nice. I mean, it has land destruction, card denying, hand destruction, all sorts of really cool fun things that make the game, and one turn wins.
Those are possible as well, yes. So even though Magic Gathering is very high up on the spectrum towards the direct interaction side, different people approach it with different play styles, all the way from I've got a pile of cards that I inherited or put together and I'm just playing with friends and family, to I am going to take this deck that I have researched to an event that contains more than 2,000 people and compete over the course of 2 days for cash prizes. I have participated in both
What
of
could
these.
go wrong? What could go wrong?
I have participated in both of these. So there you go.
So do you think people play differently, or well, obviously they play differently. But do you think the atmosphere changes in a good or positive way when you have like sanctioned tournaments, like the big sanctioned tournaments, versus like a tournament or casual play at your friendly local game store?
I think that both styles of play are valid and relevant because they serve different player needs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll throw in that I actually liked the large tournament play a lot. You have to watch people a lot during large tournament play because there's a lot of cheating. Yeah. So I mean, you get they tire you out too, because I have to watch these people like a hawk. When we're playing, like they won't tap their mana when they try to play, or just sneaky stuff. But I don't have that problem when I play at my friendly local game store because everyone's just playing. But I do like the thrill of like competitive play, trying out that deck that I just spent thousands of dollars making, and seeing how well it does. And thousands of dollars of making is cheap, because that's like your modern tournaments. Legacy is far more. Okay.
I will say that I think your assertion that there's a lot of cheating at high level events is actually not true. In my personal experience, and I've been a certified judge for something like 13 years, right? I've been a level 2 judge for the last 7 of those. So I've been to a handful of high level events, and I've only been directly involved in a cheating investigation like twice. And that's a pretty good track record considering the size of some of those events that I've gone to, where you know, a lot of the events are, oh, okay, there's a few hundred people here, cool. But some of those events are like, okay, there's a few thousand people here.
Yeah, I haven't had too many problems. The problems I did have were like people just not tapping their mana, or playing something and not quite having the right colors mana for it out on there. And just every once in a while, especially with kids, like really young kids playing.
I mean, mistakes will happen whenever you get that many people playing the same game at the same time. Actually, especially at a higher stakes event, because you have newer players that are attending for maybe the first time and aren't familiar with the expected level of play style that we anticipate at those more competitive events. Or you have people that are just plain nervous, right? And they make a mistake because their mind's not in the game in the right direction.
Oh, I mean, I know this could be a whole episode about Magic the Gathering. I don't think we want to go down that. But I wanted to say along those lines is like two-player games definitely easily go into competitiveness, because the more players you have, the more that competition can be diluted. Because, okay, I can attack this person, but I may not want to because this guy will attack me if I attack him, that kind of thing. And, you know, it doesn't fit. There's not as much direct competition sometimes in large player counts. A good example of a highly competitive direct competition game that's 2 players is Star Wars Rebellion. And this is basically hide and go seek in the Star Wars universe. You got one person playing the Empire, trying to find the rebels base, and you got the rebels, they secretly choose a base. They can, stock up at that base, or, kind of try to have little skirmishes elsewhere to kind of cause distractions. They can do all sorts of different things, but it just boils down to Imperials are exploring and attacking and planets, and they're trying to find the rebels, and the rebels are just crossing their fingers, trying to stay as quiet as possible and not get caught.
Yeah, I really, really like that game. And that game is one of the examples of a really good, stressful, competitive game, because it sort of ramps up as you go, because when you're playing on either side, you just don't understand. Like when you're playing as the Imperials, you're sweating bullets because you're like, where the heck is this dumb base at? I have everything in here. I have a Death Star. I have 3 Death Stars floating around, 2 made and 1 under construction. I have Star Destroyers everywhere. I cannot find this base, and they're going to win. And as the rebels, you're like, there's a Death Star right outside my planet. Trying not to sweat and show that you are terrified, because they could just blow up that planet, and you're like, yeah. So it's a really fun game. I don't get it to the table a whole lot, because it follows in that unique area of a 2-player game that takes a couple hours to play. And normally when I have game nights or have people over, it's more than 2 people. So it's really, really hard. Now I know that there's a 4-player variant for the game. It doesn't exist. It's just a 2-player game. It's an awful variant. You ever want to be sad? Why don't you have 4 people sad the entire game? Like, oh, you can do ground combat, but I control all the space. Or it doesn't work.
You get to do something every half hour or so.
I suppose I'll let you do some ground combat, General. Yeah. So that brings up, that's 2-player competitive games. Those are, I think, the safest type of competitive games, because you just have one person and another person competing over a simple board game. I think where it gets more complex is when you have multiplayer competitive board games, or anything else is multiplayer competitive, and the chance for like a kingmaker. So I want to see how people play. Like when people play competitively or feel like they're a competitive person, there's 2 things I think come up: is how competitive is that person? Like, are they ultra competitive? I don't like playing with ultra competitive people. It's just not fun, especially if you've ever had the wonderful ness of having someone have a grown adult having a tantrum or just breaking down because they didn't win the game. Yeah, that's fun.
You said something there about 2-player games that I think I want to touch on.
Sure.
So like in terms of 2-player competitive games, right?
Mhm.
Specifically on the more competitive side of the scale, there's a certain sense that this game can be 0-sum, meaning
Yeah.
that if I do something to gain something, I am also simultaneously in some ways taking it away from the other player. Even if I'm not directly stealing it from them, I'm denying them the opportunity to acquire it. So like in one of these 0-sum games, me gaining 2 points, you could think of that as not only have I gained 2 points, but I've denied you 2 points. So like
Right.
the swing is bigger almost. And then you mentioned about king making. This might have to wait for another video to discuss king making, because that seems like a deep topic. I've seen like 2 like kind of philosophies behind it. So it depends on how the individual player values winning the game, right? So if the individual player values tying the game the same as winning the game, they will have a different response to king making than if they're like, oh, there's either winning or not winning.
Yeah, and I've had one of the games I really love playing that I will not play at work because of one person is Condottiere. And Condottiere is an amazing game. Also, like an offshoot of Battle Line, you're going to win 3 territories in a row or 5 total for Condottiere. And it is a map and not a straight line. But I have a person at work who is not very good at the game and gets angry and sets it up so someone immediately wins. The game ends very quickly because everyone takes turns going through and you have to bid your powers and stuff. That drives me nuts. And that's pretty much my extent for talking about kin making. And what I don't like about the competitive portion is where people can feel that they just need to tank the game. And that can happen in some cooperative games that are semi-cooperative too. So like, hey, I'm not going to win, so none of us are winning, sort of thing. You can have that problem if you have people serious about playing what's that game where you defend the castle Panic. So technically in Castle Panic, the person who destroys the most monsters worth of points wins. So if people see that you have a ton of monsters, they might not actually play well on their turn, causing the game to end because all the inner towers get knocked down. So stuff like that.
Wait a second. I've never heard about that for Castle Panic.
That is the main rules. Like that is how
it's
you play.
It's a cooperative game. Everybody wins or everybody loses.
Nope. Everybody wins or everyone loses, but someone wins more because at the end you're supposed to add up your points of your monsters, and the person with the most points with. Now, if
I've never played that game with that rule before.
Okay,
it's a whole new level of game.
Yes, only certain groups have played with that rule because they wanted to.
Completely different game if you play with that rule.
Yeah, completely different game. And but at home and with my kids and stuff, we just play to win. Like everybody wins or everybody doesn't win.
You save the castle. Oh,
and
my goodness.
It's a much better game than if you're like, whoever has the most points is the super winner. I'm like, nah, that doesn't turn out to work very well. Which in competitive games, like, what do you think of semi-cooperative? I think so I'll start with me. I think semi-cooperative doesn't work most of the time.
Give me a good example.
That you've played.
Sure.
Cutthroat Caverns would be a game. I don't think I'm trying to think of a game you've played. What semi-cooperative games? Dead of Winter, I think actually does fairly good. And they did it in a way that everyone seems to be a trader. So it makes it harder to do that. And also it's harder for the trader to actually tank the game. It's a hard game, but it's harder for the trader to actively tank it, because if they come out being a trader, then you just exile them and then they can't win.
Right.
So you have to be more subtle in that game. It's not perfect, but bad examples are like Cutthroat Caverns. Like what games do you have as semi-cooperative? Do you have any that you've played that you can think of? Camelot. Shadows over Camelot is a good example of a bad semi-cooperative game.
Okay.
If you play with the trader, you like the trader almost always like 99.99999% of the time wins, because you don't need to do much at all. That game is super hard to pass and win. And as a trader, it doesn't even matter if you get like exposed. You can still cause horrible wreaking havoc and make them lose. So
okay,
I like playing Shadows over Camelot without a trader. It's hard enough.
Well, Cutthroat Caverns, I wouldn't even necessarily consider semi-cooperative. It's more towards the competitive end, because yes, you have to work together to defeat the monsters, but really you're competing to get who gets the last hit on them, each monster.
It's also a little better because you know that someone's going to backstab you eventually.
Everybody will backstab you eventually, rather.
Instead of having an even keel going throughout the entire game.
Let's be perfectly honest, folks. James will backstab you eventually.
Oh, that's happening. I'm always the trader. I was super sad that I missed the Letters of Whitechapel. gameplay through. I so wanted to be Jack the Ripper so much. So much.
It's okay. Nathan
Nathan-
trounced us enough.
Nathan is a bad man.
I highly recommend checking that out. It was I didn't get to play, but I watched it and it was incredibly entertaining, especially with being able to see what was happening. Very good. Very good. So anyone have thoughts on cooperative games in general? Like, I know, like, just to pick on Peter here, I know Peter likes playing games for fun, like we all do. And he likes he likes playing them for the experience, like we all do. But I don't know that you're too much into the cooperative or competitive games. So is there a game that you like the competitiveness in and you really get into it? Is there a game like that, like you become super competitive because you just enjoy the competitive portion of the game?
I think one of the ones that I've probably really enjoyed for the competitive nature, I would say would be Dune Imperium. Because like I want to win that game. And there's not been a whole lot of games where it's like I don't know, there's not been too many games that I've played that is like the thing for me is I want to win. But every time I sit down to play that game, the fact, and I think it's because of the different aspects of the worker placement, but then also the battle at the end of each round. Like I hate when there's a round that I'm like, I can't even get into the battle portion of this round because there's no way to build up my armies quick enough to be competitive. Every round I want to be in that battle. Because I find that part to be kind of so much fun, even though really it's just who's strongest. But then if you've got the cards at the end and you could pull it out. Yeah, so that's one that definitely I find the very small competitive nature that I have shines through in that game.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I definitely like how you can kind of sit back for a big portion of the game and you're like, oh, you're way behind. Everybody's kind of ignoring you. Then the late game, he's like, uh-oh, what's going on? He's like, suddenly you're like skyrocketing up the point chart.
Yeah. Because I don't feel like, because I always jump out early on that game. Like I'm like, I want to get as many victory points right away. And it feels really good. But then there's this point where all of a sudden I start to stagnate, and then I'm watching everybody else start creeping back up, and I'm like, no. And I feel like I'm trying to remember if I've won it yet. I might have won it once, but I feel like I'm always right there. I'm always like second, maybe a close third. But I can't remember if I've actually won that one or not. So, but it's definitely one of the games that I've played, because James is right again, and we've mentioned it a lot on the show, is that I like cooperative games. I like playing games just for hanging out with people and enjoying that. But that's one game that now I'm like, okay, I want to play this game, and when I play, I'm gonna play to win. I want to do my best. So that's fun. It's a cool feeling, because again, it's not something that happens for me all that often. Most of the time I just enjoy playing. Yeah.
I also spend way too many resources trying to be tricky during combat.
You do.
Yeah, because it's just so much fun. It's like, haha, you think you won, but look at all this junk. And you're like, wow, you just spent a lot of time getting all that. It's just so much fun doing those combats and stuff, and just coming out of nowhere and being like, oh, you have 2 hours, now you have 22. What happened?
Yeah. You had like one guy in garrison, and now you've got all the garrisoned, and they're all coming out onto the field at the same time.
Yeah, so much fun. That game is amazing.
Yeah.
Just anytime anyone asks, I always play it, and I've always beaten Peter, and he's never beaten me at any point in any game.
No, ever.
And it's definitely not by 1 point. Merchant Cove and Blood Rage. 1 point. 1 point. That is bull poop.
I'm going for the hat trick. I've got to have one more game where I beat him by 1 point, and I'll be super happy.
We're gonna at the
Yep.
I assert that in my reality it was actually 100 points and Pete's just an ace.
that's right.
It'll be SibCon when we do Lords of Waterdeep. I'm going to beat you by 1 point.
The Merchant's Cove,
no.
the Merchant's Cove loss was fantastic because in the first round, Peter was like, "The Chronomaster's so overpowered."
Oh, it was so
there's no way
broken.
we're gonna
So
get-"
broken.
He's
And
like, there's no way
in
I'm
the
ever
end-
winning. And then my face fell in the last 2 rounds because
Those last, yeah.
I'm getting no points. What are you guys doing to me?
And so I'm going to be honest, though. I'm going to be honest. So Dune Imperium has brought out the competitive nature in me. But something else that I believe has brought out the competitive nature in me in board games. And this is a good thing, not a bad thing, because I think I grew up thinking of competitiveness most of the time on the bad end of the spectrum.
Okay.
Like you were saying earlier, the people who are super competitive, and if they lose, they're going to throw a tantrum. But I think something that has brought out the competitive nature in me a little bit is playing games with friends who are also competitive gamers. Because there's not an anger associated with losing, but there is this like good camaraderie competitiveness, the little bit of poking that we do at each other is fun. And so I think growing up hearing that being like super competitive was a bad thing. It's not that being competitive is bad. It's that there is a bad way to be competitive and a good way to be competitive. And so I think being around people who are competitive, but also not jerks, has allowed me to be like, oh, okay, I can care if I'm going to win or not. And if I lose, it's fine. And I can jokingly be upset, or whatever. And so I will say that is good. And I like it. I like that I've been able to become a little bit more competitive. Even though if I lose, I don't care. But I can want to win, and that's okay.
That's yeah.
I mean,
I
we
was
do
gonna say-
get angry when we lose, but it's definitely clearly feigned anger. It's like so badly acted that nobody believes we're actually angry.
Oh, except for Tricarion. Oh my God. I was like, I hate this game. Let's burn it. And Nathan's like, no, I'll take it. I'm like, take it away from my side or it will be destroyed.
To be fair, we didn't even finish like one turn of that game.
Yeah, I was already like, nope.
And I think the key part with it too is if you have a group of people that you can play with, whether you win or lose is not going to be the focal point. It's the entire journey of from beginning to end, and the quibs and the talking in between the turns really makes it so that negative competition that many people associate to games and stuff like that is gone, because you just had such a fun time from when James is telling you the rules and we make fun of him for telling us the rules, to when Peter's complaining that somebody's overpowered in the first round and he still loses. It's that entire journey that makes it really really well. And
Except for me
it can take well, nobody cares about your opinion, James. The journey really makes the end result so much better, that really any kind of negative feeling that you have is just really gone away, and it's just replaced that I had such a good time that entire time. And then coming back to the general topic, like in Merchant's Cove, I think is a really good example too of a competitive nature where everyone's doing their own individual thing, but you have such a good market component into it that you have to be able to be competitive with each other on how am I going to influence who's buying what in a market situation, and much like any market game, to maximize what I'm going to do without maximizing what they're going to do, which is in that game how James got so many points round one, And then we were able to manipulate the markets in round 2 or 3 where he was so heavily into his yellow goods and all the yellow people were not coming out.
There was like 2 left, and they were like, "Ain't getting the dock. Ain't happening."
Until
I'm
like the second
"No!"
to the last pull in round 3, one comes out. I don't think he made it to the dock either.
Nope, he did not. I was like, no.
But any market game is really a good competitive benchmark against each other because everyone needs to have input into that market. So how competitive or not competitive you want to be is really going to drive on how well that market is going to go.
There's 2 important elements there. It's like in competitive games, the group you're playing with is important. We talked a lot about that. And having a group you're comfortable and you know how they're going to react is really important. The other very important thing is good quality game design, because a well-designed competitive game, you'll feel good even if you lose. You'll enjoy it even if you lose. If it's not well-designed, you might be frustrated because, oh, I played well, but the game rules kind of screwed me up and I lost because of some stupid little rule I didn't know about or some real super random luck thing. So yes, group isn't really important, but also good game design. And that's why we have, shows like ours and many other reviewers to tell you, well, this is a well-designed one. This is one will probably go well with your group. This one maybe not so much.
We only play good games.
I only play good games. Pete, I wanted to bring up Blood Rage. So Blood Rage, with its conflict in both the drafting and the fact that you're physically attacking other people's units. You're not going to talk about that in terms of competitive games.
Well, Dude Imperium was definitely the first one that I thought of. But Blood Rage, absolutely at this point for me. I've played it enough times that I feel like I understand the multiple strategies that are available. I'm unlike, from what I can guess, from what I've been able to gather, James and Nathan, in that I don't read up on strategies for games. Like I don't read about board games very often. That's not something I play board games and I love playing them, but I don't then follow up the board game by going, okay, now I want to read about how people play this game and how they dissected it and how they perfected it. But I've played it enough that I feel like I get the strategies. And so that one as well for me is now, especially now that I've beaten James by 1 point. I want to do that again, but I want to crush him. I don't want to do it by 1 point. I want to crush him.
It's good.
It's okay. I believe in you. I know it was actually 100 points, even though I wasn't there that game session.
August 6th on the Butler Library game day.
That's right.
Peter's going down.
Oh, it's happening. But yeah, so there, again, like I said, I have started to become more okay with that competitive nature. And those, it's fun. It's so much fun to sit down with a game that you've gotten to know and you enjoy, and you're with other people who also enjoy it. And you look at each other across the table and you're like, no, I'm going to beat you this time. And you give it your all, you give it your best shot. So it's and man, oh gosh, too many times have I played Blood Rage though and shot myself in the foot. It happens. I've noticed that I get too conservative with my play. I don't let myself stretch out there and try something crazy.
Blood Rage is all about the crazy.
It's all about the crazy. You got to take those big bets. So yeah.
I want to refute you there though. I do not research strategy. Only James does that. That's for like wimpy people who are afraid of being beat.
Oh, no, okay. All right. Only James reads about the games. Okay.
To be fair, the Blood Rage one, so the Blood Rage app.
Oh,
the bots, if you open up the bots and you can click the play style of the bots, it actually has a description of how that play style strategy works.
Oh, really?
And that's where I was talking about, where I was like, wow, there was like 2 strategies I never thought of. that were bot strategies that explained what they were doing. And I'm like, that is cool.
That
And
is
then I
cool.
applied them, and I do like a semi-balanced strategy when I play, although it's still crazy. But
Yeah. I just didn't, I never realized in the digital game that it has that description of how those different styles end up getting
Yeah,
played.
you
So,
should check it
okay.
out. Some of them are
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
That's interesting.
One thing I wanted to say about competitive games is the greatest experiences that I have playing board games is when, and it's fairly rare because I'm always doing new games, but when everyone at the table knows how to play the game and knows how to play the game well. I think that's why like playing Blood Rage with everyone is an amazing time for me, because everyone knows what they're doing, everyone knows what's happening, and we just go at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that. Doesn't matter if I win, it's just an amazing experience of like playing at the level where I don't have to be like, I feel bad that I'm doing this to you. I don't. Everyone knows what they're doing. All the gloves are off. We're just going nuts and having fun. Concordia is the same way, which I don't think I've ever won that game. When everybody knows how to play that game, it's just amazing experience. Lords of Waterdeep. I think everybody in Butler knows how to play Lords of Waterdeep.
Everybody in Butler knows how to play Lords of Waterdeep.
Every single person. So I could bring that out, and we could have like a toddler show up and be like, I'm gonna crush you. And they know how to play the game. So we're all good. I love at the SimCom and CosCon that Sunday, always Lord of Waterdeep game. And this time we're having a tournament.
Yeah, so it gets extra competitive.
It's extra competitive.
Now wait, is there a prize for this event?
There is a prize, and I already
What is Peter
told-
winning?
Peter could win. Peter could win a copy of Terraforming Mars Ares.
Ooh.
So I got a shrink copy of that, so brand new. If for some unknown reason, which is highly unlikely, that if I win, the second place person is going to get it.
Oh, okay.
So
I'll give if James wins.
I'm going to be in it.
If James wins, I'll give him a big pat on the back as he gives the game to the second winner.
So and it's going to be a single elimination, but there will be 6 players in the final round. So if we have 3 tables, the first and second place people will be in the final round.
Oh, cool. Nice.
And that sort of thing. And if we have 4 tables or anything uneven, then it's going to be all the first players are in there. And then we're going to have a wild card, whoever had the most points in second place, the 2 second places will get it. So
that's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be fun. That's just the whole point. It's not going to be super competitive, I hope. It's just let's have fun and have a cool game going.
Yeah.
But
back to competition. There is one game that really brings out my competitive nature. That's Shards of Infinity. Because this has this is a card game that has 2 different aspects. It can be played more than 2 players. It can be do 3. I think it can do up to 4. Yeah, you can do up to 4. But in this game, you can either win by getting skill. I don't remember the term, but basically a lot of points, basically, and then or you can win by just killing everybody. And that can be really fun, and I really do enjoy. Oh, I can take out Peter. Let's kill Peter right now. And
I agree.
the attack aspect of that is fun, and it doesn't feel too harsh because you can if there is a incentive to balance it, so you're attacking everybody evenly. But yes, it's definitely fun to just take somebody out.
Now, another game that's competitive that I don't know that someone could whoop me so badly in a game is what is that card? Not Everdale, but the one that you have to put the cards in the sleeves. We played the digital version, and I don't think anyone has ever beat me so badly.
Oh,
was it Mystic Veil?
Mystic Veil, yes, Mystic Veil Digital. I felt that game was fun, but wow, there was a spread for points.
Did I win that one?
I'm pretty sure you just destroyed.
Okay.
I mean, we actually have it recorded, so and up on YouTube. So if any guys want to see it, bring it up and play it, and then watch me cry. I get trounced.
I might have to watch it just to see you cry again.
It's interesting that you bring up Mystic Veil because what do you call it? You're just racing for victory points in that game. There's no real direct attacks between the players. You're kind of fighting over the upgrade cards because, like, there's a pool in the center, and you kind of have to go after the ones that you feel is the most useful to you before anybody else grabs them. But that's about it in terms of like the points in which the players interact.
Yeah, the only difference is having like 5 points at the end of the game. Versus
oh
the
yeah,
person
well,
that
if you ended the game with 5 points, you definitely did not build your engine to make points, which is actually a problem in that game for me too. Ken 98% of the time will beat me in that game because he starts making points like 3 turns before I do.
Oh wow.
And then I just can't catch up.
In the sense, it's more like competing over resources because you got the market or whatever, and you're trying to buy cards from there before people do. You got the the big high scoring cards at the top that you're trying to get your sets ready for that before anybody else can get to them. So yeah, it's more competition over resource.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I lost really horribly with that. So Dan and I guess are in the same area with that. Which is fine. Yeah.
I actually wanted to hear from Evan here as a miniature gamer as well on this topic. Because I imagine there's a non-zero number of miniature games where the point is to basically blow up the opponent's units. And I feel like that's probably something that we should talk about.
So yeah, really with almost every miniature game out there, it's going to be 1v1, 2v, whatever, one team versus another team. And whether you're playing straight up destroy the other person, objectives, or anything like that, I mean, it's a finite of this team has to win, this team has to lose, and there must be massive destruction between the two. It's just there's no other way to really simulate those. Most of those games, I mean, are based around warfare itself. So the nature of warfare is to be the one that lives the longest, I guess is the polite way to say it. So
to drive your enemies before you and to hear the lamentations of their women, right?
Exactly. You want to be that one. So you're having nothing but direct conflict with the other person. And I think the key thing with that is, much like what we talked about earlier, is having the people around to play with that makes it so it's more enjoyable versus taking things personally, which could be very easy to do.
Yeah, it's sort of weird. We played a couple games for my first ever miniature games and stuff like that. And it's weird having a game where you're like, there's very little chance to zero that you can win. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, what is happening? And they're like, yeah, you almost can't win. I'm like, what are we doing?
We're gonna play for another hour, but you've lost already.
I was like,
just enjoy the shellacking. It's over.
That is a hard pill to swallow for me. Like, but I understand. A lot of them are simulations of different battles and stuff, and some of the battles were super lopsided. So it's trying to be historic, and you're trying to reenact it and try to see like what strategies or how feudal it actually really was and get that feeling in there. I understand that, but as a board gamer, it's like, oh, I got to get out of the board game mode because I'm like, I can't win. What are we talking about? What's happening? Where am I?
Yeah, and I mean, and the key thing is, where am I going to dip my toe into the water here? Is do I want to go into historical recreations of certain things where it is completely 100% lopsided, but I want to see if I can survive that. Or you can go into something and play games such as like Bolt Action or X-Wing or something like that, where it's points driven and having an allotment of points. Now we can build a balanced force against each other, and is it what can I use with these points that I might be able to counter against another person, and using that as a system to almost balance out the game at that point. So it's really where you want to go with that one, which is I think one thing I do like with miniature games, because I mean you have that balance that you can go either way with them. So it really depends on what you want to do with it, which is going to be the right way you want to go.
And I sort of like no, it's not really a miniatures game, but I sort of like Memoir 44, how it has lopsided battles, but the team that's going to lose just has to meet an objective to win. I mean, historically they lost, it's going to happen, but game wise, if you can meet this objective that's hard, you can win. You didn't win because you know you're going to get rolled over eventually in the scenario you did. But I sort of like that sort of push and pull where the overwhelming force still needs to have some incentive to just keep pushing through and not just be like, you got 10 of my people, but I have 150,000 and you have 4, sort of thing. I like that.
Where I like that to come off is when you guys played Ruthless with the Tombstone Tinderbox.
Yes.
So when you can easily lopside a battle, and it being only one act in a larger section, that one thing is not going to completely derail everything. It forces you to make smart choices into it. You can make terrible choices and run in and get clubbed to death. That still happens. But like I said, that lopsidedness isn't going to completely ruin the game because it's only one act in this grand picture. So I may have lost 2 guys in this part, but I'm going to get 4 more in this one. So now I still have 4 guys. I could have had 6 if I made different choices. How am I going to build off of this? And decisions that I'm going to make are going to affect, overall victory points into the grand scheme of it. Did I make the right choices or did I not make the right choices on completely other things too? So I like when you have that grand overarching that can completely take away. It doesn't matter if I had only 3 guys versus your 300. If I completed objective A, B, and C through it into the next part of this, that now because I did that, it completely changes how the rest is going to play out. So I like doing it that way because it's almost a good blend of both.
Yeah, I agree. I really love that. I love games that stories, and I loved how it divided into small chapters, and you went into one and they affected the next and stuff like that. And I love the thematicness of it. I really liked throwing my guns down, running into a saloon and start punching people in the face and missing every single person and getting shot. It was a fun game, and I liked how it just kept progressing into different portions. I think that's a highly underrated game that if you want to get into miniatures, you should start there. It's pretty nice, especially since it's an all-in-one set. Miniature games don't normally come that way. You have a rule set and you have to buy miniatures and figure it out on your own. This is, you got a box, everything's in it, you're ready to go. Have fun.
Even down to the glue and the washers you need, it's all there. It's 100% there.
Yep. So does anyone else have anything they would like to throw out about competitive games before I make a ridiculous game that probably Peter will win this time by 1 point?
Yeah, I have a question for y'all.
All right.
Now,
James said it.
Like cooperative games, would you consider them still competitive? Because, a lot of people will say, okay, it's you against the game or your group against the game. What is your feelings on that argument?
I think most cooperative games are solo. Some do better than others. Like Spirit Island does a really good job of being a cooperative game where everyone is involved. And it's mainly because you have to concentrate a lot on your own spirit and its little puzzle. So much so that you can't see the other person's board and you don't know what they can do, but you're just hoping they can help in some way. I think that one does a good job. It's you against the board that is competitive, but like Pandemic Legacy or Pandemic, you could technically just have nobody playing and just have yourself do everything.
So I think it goes along with part of what you said earlier, Nathan. I think it all depends on how well the game is designed. And also with a lot of what Peter's talked about too, with how the narrative and everything comes with the game. So I think those two things together, if you could say yes to both, then yes, I would say it would be a competitive game because the game works well. Like I was just looking over when you posed that question, trying to think of that, and my eyes caught Tales from a Loop game. So I would say yes to that being, us versus the board versus the game itself, because the game is very well designed. The narrative is really, really good. And that really pushes the game. So that sense of did we win or did we lose is much bigger than versus something like Pandemic, where it's like, oh, yay, we won.
I guess I got to take my words back a little bit and admit that I'm wrong. Because Mansions of Madness is that way. It is a competitive, it's a cooperative game that feels like you're actually fighting for your life competitively against an app that hates you. Cthulhu Death May Die felt the same way, although we did really good in that game towards the end. It was just like some parts of the game are like, there's no way, there's so much fire. What is happening?
Yeah, that one was nuts.
Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to playing more of the season episodes with you guys too, because each one's very different. And I have so much content and it seems fun. So
Each one gets harder.
yeah.
Rasputin only can come back so many times.
Right.
As for myself, personally, I find it a little difficult to call a game that's specifically designed to be cooperative to be a competitive game. Though James is right, Mansions of Madness might come very close. Like it might cross that barrier for me. However, if it's a multiplayer game that happens to have like a solo mode attached to it, then it becomes a much bigger gray area, because the solo mode might just be like race against yourself to achieve a high score, or race against the game system just to see how much you could do in a fixed period of time, right? Which doesn't seem to be too competitive. I mean, I guess you could be competing against yourself if it's a race for a high score. But what's more interesting to me is the games that use these like pseudo-intelligent, people have been calling them autonoma, right? Where the opposing solo mode is designed to act like a player and interact with you as if it were a player, right? That means that solo mode could be competitive to me.
Now, this may seem like an odd choice, but I do feel very competitive when I play the crew. Even though it's a completely abstract cooperative game, it doesn't quite make sense, but it seems like I'm competing against the randomness of the card distribution.
All right, everyone can be weird.
Oh no! In that game, I'm competing against the other players 100%. Like, what are you guys doing? I know exactly what I need to do in order to win this hand, and you guys are just messing it up.
Dan's over there staring daggers. He's like, a game that actually is solo that feels very competitive is Gloomhaven. Playing Gloomhaven solo feels competitive. The game's it can be pretty rough on some of the areas just to try to push through. So, and there's a lot of interaction, and the bot movement's the same as with multiplayer as it's with solo. So there's actually not much difference in that, but it is a solo game that is competitive. I feel it is. All right. Anyone have anything else before Peter crushes us? Well, I'm not playing. I'm just running it.
No, I'm ready. And if you're running it and I win, I still beat you.
All right. So I've taken not a whole lot of games, but I've taken some games here, and I have run them through Google Translate multiple times. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give a game, and you have to guess it. And we're gonna do. I'll go Nathan, Dan, Peter, Evan, and we'll just keep going that. So if someone successfully guesses it, the next person will have a different one to try. Person with the most points will win, like 99.999% of the games out there. So Nathan's going to get the first one. And Nathan's first one is going to be Evening Time Clash.
Twilight Struggle.
Yes, so Nathan gets a point. These might be a little too easy, but we will see. So the next one's going to be for Dan. It's going to be Rebellious Star Love.
Star Wars Rebellion.
Yeah, this is going to be all right. No one's winning. All right, this one's going to be an easy one for hopefully Peter, because I'll mock him if he doesn't get it. The people search for multiple planets.
Wait a second. Okay. The people search for multiple planets.
Yes, people search for multiple planets.
Oh gosh. Search for multiple planets. I'm so bad at word games. Says the librarian.
This is a leper. Mocking will start.
I am. I'm terrible at word games.
Throw out a guess.
Oh, you know, like
Gonna pass.
yeah, I'm gonna pass.
All right.
Nothing's coming to me.
Evan? Can't hear you.
Yeah,
What is
you're-
it? What is it again?
The people search for multiple planets.
Wait, so was this the same one that Dan tried? And so when he didn't get it, it passed to me.
No, Dan got his. This is just for you so far.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
I'm stuck on the crew Deep Space Nine, but
Which is it?
the crew.
He
I
says
gotta
the
give it to
crew.
you. It's the crew, the search for Planet 9.
Isn't it the quest for
Ah,
Planet 9?
I honestly forgot.
Yeah, it's the crew.
I forgot the
quest for
crew.
Planet 9. I'm just getting messed up from like just the translate over and over
Right,
because I was like,
I forgot the crew had more of a title to it than it wasn't just called the crew.
the crew. Okay.
That was my fault. I totally forgot that it had more title to it.
All right, so we are doing pretty good. I got a super hard one for Nathan. It is The Enemy.
Nemesis.
Oh, come on. Yeah. Yes, it's the Nemesis. It's Nemesis. Okay. All right, Dan, you have food arrested pole.
Food arrested pole.
Yeah, food arrested pole.
What is that last word?
Pole, like you're on a pole.
Oh, okay. POLE.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure POLL, POLE. Okay.
Oh, I hope this makes. I think I figured this one out.
Yeah, I don't think this is gonna be correct, but I'm gonna go with food chain magnet.
It actually is.
Oh my lord!
What? I don't even know that game. Well done.
It's actually a game that looks like a prototype that is a pretty cool game where you're trying to open burger joints and pizza
Okay.
places and
Nice.
try to capture all the money from the neighborhood.
Well done, Dan.
Yeah. All right. So for Peter, sand dunes.
Sand dunes?
Sand dunes. This is how wonderful Google Translate is. You get sand dunes.
Because obviously I just want to say dune. Sand dunes. I hate this game. I'm terrible.
Yeah.
No idea. Dune Imperium. No,
It
idea.
is Dune Imperium.
Oh, it is?
It's literally Google
Dune
Translate.
Imperium translated into
Dune-
sand dunes?
Sand dunes. Yep.
Okay. I got lucky on
Alright.
that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you got a point. So it's
Yay,
good.
1 point.
All right, so Evan gets Death Anger.
Blood Rage.
Death Blood Rage. So it's 2, 2, and 1. Peter might lose by 1 point.
I just might.
Just fun.
And
All
it's gonna
right,
be a
so
three-way tie for winning.
Nathan gets Seller's Shelter.
Merchant's Cove.
Just Merchant's Cove. This one is amazingly horrible, and I'm going to give it to Dan. So let's see, it's a Monster Malua Medui. Monster Malui Medui.
I don't even know what those last two
English.
words
He's
are.
not even speaking English now.
Yeah, this is what happens when you try multiple languages through Google Translate and put it back to English.
All right. One more time. One more time.
Monster Malui Meadui.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass.
I'm
on
gonna
that.
give
That's
2 points
garbage.
if anyone can figure it out.
That's garbage.
2 points if you can figure it out. Peter? He's like, nope, out.
Oh gosh. So 2 points if I can get it. This is my chance to catch up, everybody.
Yeah,
It's
this is a chance to catch
It's not
up.
gonna happen.
Monster Malui Medui.
So weird. No, nothing.
All
Nothing.
right, Evan.
Evan. Look at him. He's looking at all his board games back there. He's like,
Oh,
what could this be?
yes.
What could this even
Yes, I
be?
am.
Nathan looks like he might know what it is. We're gonna find out. What you got it, Evan? You got it?
King of Tokyo.
Nope. Nathan?
I got 2 things I think it could be.
You only get one guess.
You only get one guess.
Yeah. I'm gonna go to a Kingdom Death Monster.
Nope. It's Cthulhu Death May Die.
I thought of that during the rotation.
Yeah, it went from
Cthulhu Death May
Russian
Die.
to Hawaiian to English, and it went to heck.
I had thought of that, but it wasn't. My other guess was gonna be Boss Monster.
Okay. That's
All right. So I have, where are we at? 3 for Nathan, 2 for Dan, 1 for Peter, and 2 for Evan. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So
Yeah, I'm on 2, right?
that you get Soul Land.
Spirit Island.
Yep.
There
Now what
you
I'm going to do,
go.
we have 2 tied players. This is not even fair. I'm going to have to get one here real quick. To have
Oh,
a
find
death
us a
match
special
between 2.
tiebreaker one.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
gotta get
yeah.
a special tiebreaker one. I gotta think
Whatever
of
you
one
do,
that
translate it to like Chinese and then back. That'll make it really good.
Let's do it. I got it. I got this one. You both know of this game, so all right, here we go.
Is this gonna be a shout out situation?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, first
Oh,
person.
boy.
Yeah,
Oh,
first
boy.
person to throw it out there.
Hold on, I gotta change it to a couple different languages. 1 second.
It's not it's
Got
not
it,
obscure
yeah.
enough yet. Hmm.
It's not. Oh my gosh, what is that? All right, here we go. All right. Driver's random space.
Downforce?
Nope.
Formula D.
Nope. Yeah, driver's random space.
Flamme Rouge.
Nope.
Okay. I'm
So,
tossing out all
we're
these
gonna have to
racing
try a different
games.
one. That was Roll for the Galaxy.
Oh my.
Driver's random space. All right.
There's not a single element in that that makes sense.
All right, we're gonna
Well,
try
Galaxy.
this one. I guess space. I don't know. What's another good one here? Oh. This might be a softball to Dan. We're gonna see.
I mean, we're still shouting it out, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Takes a second to make it totally screwed up. So hold
Uh-huh.
on.
Clank in space.
No. Oh, it's getting pretty close to being unrecognizable. Hold on.
Yeah, Magic the Gathering.
All right, ready?
Sure.
Enduring age. Old sailor.
Endeavor, Age of Sail.
Yes, you got it.
What even game is that?
Endeavor Age of Sail is a pretty neat game. Dan actually donated it to the board game library. He actually donated the deluxe version of it.
Okay.
So we can play it on one of the.
It's actually a really cool, like it's got elements of like area control
Okay.
and like resource management to it. You're
Okay,
like putting all these tokens out on the board representing the colonization of the world by the European powers.
James, this was a weird game, man.
Yeah. We don't need to talk about that. We need to talk about the fact that I won.
Yeah, and
Boo.
wait. Yeah, by 1 point too. By 1 point. I thought Dan was gonna get that one.
Oh man.
Oh well.
Nathan,
tried.
Nathan
Yeah.
wins again. Dang
Nathan
it.
wins again. Yeah, I don't know. I like doing that, but some of them were like, what was the one that was completely ridiculous?
The one that you
Dan
moved
dude.
to Hawaiian and then back.
I was like, well, we're going with it. Like, whatever this is. Like, no one's gonna get through until they die from this. I kept going until it stopped saying Cthulhu, is basically what I did.
Mm,
And it took that
Smart.
one took forever. Because apparently Cthulhu is the same in like every language except for Hawaiian. Just a monster in Hawaii. They're like, yeah, it's just a Tuesday. Just a Tuesday.
I can see like monster coming out of that. Where did the word death go? You think that would
I think it became a Hawaiian word and then no one had a translation for it. And then it ended up being a Hawaiian word, which I probably butchered anyway. So probably were like,
yeah, I'm
whoa,
sure.
you said that completely wrong. I'm like, well, no one would have got it anyway. So who cares?
We lost all of our Hawaiian viewership with this episode.
Just gone. Thanks,
all,
James.
all 5 people from Hawaii were like, heck with you guys. Unsubscribe. No, don't do that. Subscribe.
And
So-
correct James in the comments.
And correct James with the yeah, please tell me how wrong I am, because I am very wrong at this. So that was our episode on competitive games. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. If you like what we do, please subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, or you want to throw anything in at us, just throw them down in the comments and we'll respond. So thank you for watching.
And if you really like it and you subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe.
Exactly.
And
yes.
your grandma.
And your grandma. Just that, yeah, we need more grandmas subscribing to our channel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, why not? Anyway, y'all have a good night.